Hey guys, it's Rift here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at Harman Smith, a notorious Nintendo Switch fanboy, bitch and whine about how apparently the Nintendo Switch is objectively better to the PC. Let's begin.
PC gaming is dying a death.
Based on what proof? Literally no gaming platform is dying a death right now, and if a gaming platform were indeed to die, PC would be the last one to do so because of all the additional features.
And I think it begins and ends with the superiority of Nintendo consoles.
In what regard is Nintendo Switch superior to PCs? Like performance? Well, that's a joke, because the Nintendo Switch gets outperformed by the base Xbox One and PS4, despite the fact that those consoles released 4 years prior. In terms of sales, well, it's sold nearly 150 million copies, which is certainly impressive, but that's still not even remotely close to the amount of PC gamers that we have. In terms of cost efficiency, well, again, not really. The console itself is cheap, but you have to pay a significant fee every year just to play your games online, and the games themselves are ridiculously expensive. Even games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which have been in the store for a long-ass time now. Like, Switch really is not better than PC in any way.
As we all know, Nintendo consoles are superior to gaming PCs in every way.
They literally aren't. You are the only person on this planet that thinks like this.
They have way more functionality, they're way more fun to play with friends, they have way better software.
They literally don't. The online for Nintendo Switch is honestly a joke, and it is by far the worst compared to PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. It's not even remotely close. And again, in terms of better software, well, it gets outperformed by the Xbox One and the PS4, which released 4 years prior to it. Like, it is not a powerful platform by any means, and you're trying to say that it's better than PC? Like, even a mid-range one?
But the issue over the past 10 or so years is that the PC master race, the delusional group of terminally online weirdos who refuse to accept anything other than PC gaming as being a relevant gaming platform.
Well, yeah, an argument could be made for that, because at the end of the day, PC is objectively best, assuming that you can obviously put the money in and the time in to learn and understand it. Also, you have no room to stand on, since in another video, you literally said that game developers should give up on Microsoft, Sony, and PC, and make every single game a Nintendo Switch exclusive. So you have no room to stand on, my guy.
Have been attempting to gaslight people into thinking PC gaming is superior.
It's almost as if you do the exact same thing, but for Nintendo Switch.
In spite of basically relying on multi-plat releases from Xbox and PlayStation in order to stay relevant.
Based on what statistics? You're not showing any evidence, and also I very much doubt that PC is being supported by Xbox and PS5, when PC has by far the largest game library on the market, and it's not even remotely close, not even factoring in emulation. Also, there is a reason why Xbox and PS5 games don't go to the Switch. It's because the Switch is not powerful enough to run those games without making several giant cuts. There's a reason why, for example, when Hogwarts Legacy came out, the Switch port was left to rot until years later. Is it even out yet? I don't even fucking know.
Right? PC gaming is so irrelevant.
If PC gaming is so irrelevant, please explain to me why it has the largest library of any gaming platform, as well as over 1 billion registered users on Steam. Literally 1 in 8 people alive on planet Earth today have a Steam account. Please explain to me how that is irrelevant.
That it's major news whenever a PC exclusive gets released.
You could say literally the exact same for other exclusives. Like, it was a big deal when Tears of the Kingdom came out on the Switch, or when Spider-Man 2 came out on the PS5.
And usually it's some, like, established minor niche thing that just has a dedicated cult following.
Okay, and what's wrong with that? If Lethal Company showed us anything, it's that, yes, niche indie games can indeed compete with AAA games. Lethal Company sold more than 10 million copies last year.
You know, stuff like Half-Life Alyx or Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3 also sold over 10 million copies, and Half-Life Alyx sold over 2 million copies, which is actually pretty impressive for a virtual reality game. So I'll ask again, what is your point?
Right? These aren't major releases. These aren't games that are going to be remembered 20 years from now. These aren't relevant.
They aren't relevant, yet they sell millions of copies apiece. Interesting.
Right? It's only relevant because it's Half-Life. It's only relevant because it's D&D.
I hate to be that guy, but you could say the exact same thing about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It sold incredibly well, yet it was still a poorly optimized game and objectively worse in terms of performance than Sword and Shield. It was one of the worst optimized Pokemon games of all time.
Right? That is the current situation when it comes to PC gaming.
So the current situation, according to you, is that very niche games with obscure audiences still sell millions of copies apiece, and PC is supposedly irrelevant because of that. You know, not Nintendo, where they release a shit ton of games on one platform and then move on to the next platform and pretend that those games didn't exist. You know, not like Nintendo. Like, one of the biggest strengths of PC is that gaming will never become irrelevant. Because unlike with consoles, we don't have generations. It's not like with backwards compatibility on Xbox, where you have to hope and pray that the game that you like actually becomes compatible. No, with PC, every game is compatible out of the box, assuming that your PC is strong enough to run it.
Is that this is an ecosystem that appeals to people that have way too much time and money on their hands, and as a result, generates a ton of revenue, in spite of being an objectively inferior experience.
I mean, the last time I checked, my PC didn't run games at 720p 30 FPS. It didn't have a storage space so small that I could only store about 5 or 10 games. And I also didn't need to pay for my online services. So I would have to completely disagree with you there.
And I think with the advent of the Nintendo Switch, with more and more people getting exposed to all these great Nintendo games.
Once again, a friendly reminder that whilst yes, the Nintendo Switch has sold a shit ton of copies, it's not even 20% of the way compared to PC gamers.
Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Fire Emblem Engage.
It's pretty interesting that you talk about niche games for niche audiences for PC, but then you only talk about Nintendo exclusives for the Nintendo Switch. What about all of those wonderful third-party copies released on the Switch? You want to tell us about those? About, like, Modern Warfare? Doom? Dark Souls 3? Elden Ring? Baldur's Gate? God of War? Oh, wait.
You know, like, there are dozens of examples last year alone of games that will never, ever release on PC.
Yeah, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of games that will never ever release on the Switch because it's physically not powerful enough to run them. So, checkmate.
In any capacity. Oh, what about emulation? It's piracy.
Emulation isn't piracy. Stop being fucking salty, you gnome. At the end of the day, if emulation was on the Switch, you wouldn't fucking bat an eye at it. But the fact that we can play dozens, if not hundreds, of Nintendo games from not just the Switch, but also from like the Wii, the N64, etc., that really bothers this guy, as you can tell. But here's a genuine question. Even if you want to discount emulation for a second, where are all these Nintendo games on the Switch? They're not being brought back, they're not being remastered, nothing's being done with them. Literally the only thing that can happen now is for PC to emulate them and to bring these games back from the dead.
So the instant that Nintendo is able to crack down on piracy and start sending these people straight to prison where they belong.
Yes, I also hope that Nintendo make increasingly poor decisions and gatekeep their games so that people can't play them on anything other than Nintendo consoles.
When we see that start to happen, emulation is going to drop like a rock.
I mean, for emulation to die, then the gaming industry as a whole would have to die. Since emulation, by definition, you can play basically any game from any era of video gaming as long as it's compatible.
And in a lot of ways, people don't really understand, like, Nintendo's anti-piracy protection. Like,
yeah, and I don't think you understand it either, because emulating games isn't illegal, nor is it piracy.
The anti-piracy software works, for the most part. Like, people are banging on about flashcards right now. Like, probably a single update would patch that out, would make them obsolete. Like, there is all sorts of things Nintendo can do to mitigate, like, this flashcard problem.
If there are people out there literally causing piracy, then yeah, I hope Nintendo crack down on that. But that isn't an argument you can make against emulation, since, once again, it's not illegal. Like, if they're cracking down on piracy, then yeah, good for them, but it doesn't apply to the argument.
What it comes down to really is that there is a certain demographic that is religiously obsessed with the idea of Nintendo failing no matter what and going third party, when that is becoming more and more obvious.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable. When you're the only one of the 4 platforms that doesn't run that many third-party games, obviously you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. Also, don't you dare try say that sort of thing when your entire channel is religiously based around Nintendo succeeding.
It remains to be seen just when and how Nintendo will objectively, surpass PC gaming.
So you just debunked your entire argument, since according to you earlier in the video, Nintendo had already surpassed PC and was objectively best. It's almost as if you're chatting out your ass and you're just bringing together a load of points, throwing them at a wall and hoping that they stick. Since earlier in the video you said that Nintendo Switch is objectively better than PCs, but now you're saying it remains to be seen if that's ever gonna happen. Spoiler alert, it isn't gonna happen.
Because right now, I think there's an argument of the free online play and the digital storefront and the ability to upgrade your own parts and just the sheer nostalgia figure.
Everything he just said was true, but that's just scratching the tip of the iceberg for all of the pros that PC has over the Switch. But hats off to him, I guess, for criticizing the Switch, even if it was indirectly. Character development.
Factor of just playing on PC your entire life and simply not knowing what's on the superior Nintendo platform.
If anything, I'd argue the complete opposite is true, as console gaming isn't really going anywhere in the current year, that we're basically just getting more and more people jumping ship over to PC, which actually makes sense since Steam has over 132 million monthly active users, and 69 million people use Steam on a daily basis, and it has over 100,000 games. So, if anything, I would say the opposite is true. More and more people are jumping ship to PC.
Right. I think it's very clear, simply observing the community, that people who play on both, who have high-end gaming PCs, like myself, and gaming and Nintendo consoles, generally lean towards Nintendo consoles.
PC gaming has more monthly active users than the Nintendo Switch has annual users. So I would completely disagree with you there based on the stats.
Now, PC gamers will try and gaslight you into thinking it's the other way around, but that's obviously not the case.
Based on what? Your own headcanon? I mean, yeah, that may be true, since apparently you think that The Witcher 3 performs just as well on the Switch as it does on a good gaming PC.
So, when you look at the actual what Nintendo is doing with their software and hardware,
charging you a subscription fee to play your games online and also charging a ridiculous amount of money to play games at 720p 30 FPS,
it's becoming more and more obvious that there's nothing that PC has that can compete with this.
Aside from Steam getting more games added to the platform in May alone of this year than the Nintendo Switch has at all. Yeah, what does the PC have over Switch, am I right?
Right? All they can do is just put out worse versions of what Nintendo already has.
Well, emulation would completely disagree with you, since we can play the original games at a better quality than they were when they were released on the Nintendo hardware. And also, you could say the exact same thing about the Switch. All it can do is play third-party games at a worse quality than its competition. Assuming that they're even released on the platform at all, since it's so weak of a hardware.
In order to try and mitigate, try to deal with the Zelda problem, they have to, shove Dragon's Dogma 2 down your throat. They had to shove Monster Hunter. They have to, just...
I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but neither of those games were Nintendo Switch exclusives, nor were they ever Nintendo exclusives. The original Monster Hunter came out on PS2, so I really don't understand what you're saying there.
Just throw everything they possibly have at the wall to see what sticks, right?
Kinda like you and everything you ever say on your YouTube channel.
From Slop, right? They had to, do the Dark Souls thing.
Yeah, and how many Dark Souls games are on the Switch again?
They have to keep trying to gaslight you into thinking Zelda is, some stale derivative franchise.
Literally, who was saying that? You're doing what you literally just said 2 minutes ago, where you're making up stuff and hoping it sticks.
Because if you knew that Zelda was a innovative franchise that completely redefined gaming with every major release, nobody would really bother with any of this other stuff. Like,
it's pretty convenient how you're not mentioning that, oh, if you actually like Zelda, well, you have to play it at 720p 30 FPS on objectively the weakest console that's so weak that the original Xbox One is stronger than it. So, do you mind telling people that? People naturally gravitate towards multi-platform games, but even if they don't, they're gonna gravitate towards better quality exclusives like God of War or Spider-Man.
what has Monster Hunter done to innovate over the past several years?
Yeah, and what has Pokemon or Animal Crossing done to innovate? Especially Pokemon, since it's been out for far longer than Monster Hunter has.
Right? What has Dragon's Dogma done? You know, what has FromSoft done?
If by that you mean From Software, compare Demon's Souls to Elden Ring and you will see firsthand just how much they have changed and innovated.
You know, like, when you compare those franchises to what Nintendo has done with Breath of the Wild alone...
Elden Ring and Monster Hunter World innovated way more than Breath of the Wild did. Fight me.
You see, like, a massive gap in quality.
Yeah, just like when you compare any third-party game that can actually run on the Switch to how it can run on the PC.
Right, and it's not just Zelda. Of course it's Mario, of course it's Splatoon, of course it's Animal Crossing, all of which are completely unemulatable.
Yeah, remind me again how many games are on the PC that aren't on the Switch? Oh yeah.
Right, you have these amazing experiences that you can only get on Switch.
I mean, that's not exactly saying much, considering you're the same guy who thinks that Nintendo Switch Sports is more entertaining and a better experience than Elden Ring.
And the question is, I think, is at what point the general gaming public starts getting sick of PC gamers.
You can get fed up with us all you like, but the fact of the matter is that Nintendo Switch is a drop in the bucket compared to the juggernaut that is PC, and that's a fact.
And their nonsense of claiming that the definitive versions of everything is on their platform, because it's happening.
Yeah, and considering that a mid to high range PC is enough to completely surpass the Series X and the PS5, I'm not surprised that people are thinking that. And PC gaming is gonna completely evolve as time goes on, as more and more components get introduced. Like, this is just common sense.
You know, like, I've talked about this before. Like, I've acknowledged that Nintendo hardware is objectively superior.
It's not even as powerful as the Xbox One or the PS4. How the hell do you expect it to be better than even a mid-range PC?
Like, I've talked about how Doom 2016 on PC is not as good as Doom 2016 on Nintendo Switch. Like, I've talked about how Doom 2016 on PC is not as good as Doom 2016 on Nintendo Switch. Like, I've talked about how Doom 2016 on PC is not as good as Doom 2016 on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, this doesn't exactly give me high hopes with your Witcher 3 comment either.
Right? Right, I've talked about how there's no discernible difference between, like, The Witcher 3 on Switch and Skyrim on Switch compared to, like, the PC gaming platform and all the...
Well, I've already shown you what Doom looks like on the Switch, although, take my word for it, The Witcher 3 and Skyrim on the Switch honestly look like PS2 games. They do not look nearly remotely as good as what next-gen consoles and the PC can make those games look like.
Excuses that people throw out there, stuff like mods, stuff like, just higher frame rates, all of it is just gaslighting you.
It's also straight facts, I mean, you can't forget that one.
Right, it is just an attempt to try and, like, just throw buzzwords at you, trying to convince you that your platform is inferior.
I mean, if we're talking about graphics and performance, then your platform is inferior to last gen, so I don't know what to tell you, dude.
And I think as more and more people start, like, getting into games and...
What, do you mean like the new 25 million players who went to PC in 2020?
Start thinking about them more and start, like, experiencing what Nintendo is doing and start being more invested in these platforms and start recognizing...
Sorry, dude, but the world that you live in doesn't line up with the world that we are living in. Since the Nintendo Switch, even at its most theoretical popular, is still not even 20% of the way there to overtaking PC. Sorry, dude.
As more and more Nintendo franchises become iconic, more well-known than their competitors, it's gonna be harder and harder to downplay Nintendo IPs.
Like, again, who is downplaying Nintendo? Like, it's an objectively inferior platform, but you can still enjoy it. Like, there's nothing wrong with enjoying it, but when you make statements saying how it's quote-unquote objectively better than XYZ, obviously people are gonna poke holes in your argument.
Already, it's kind of difficult to convince people that, like, oh, Nintendo, they only have Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon, and...
To be fair, they don't even have that, since on PC you can emulate basically every Pokemon game from Gen 1 to Gen 6, and you can emulate it at a better quality than they were on the Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. So, what's your point?
I remember back in the 2000s when people would, like, shout that to the rooftops and then turn around and try to say that, like, oh, but those franchises aren't as good as they used to be.
Well, yeah, some franchises in the early 2000s weren't as good as they used to be. I mean, take a look at Sonic the Hedgehog or Crash Bandicoot.
Looking back on it, it's weird seeing stuff like Dark Cloud be promoted, you know, seeing stuff like Yokai Watch being promoted as a Pokemon killer, you know, seeing stuff like Final Fantasy VII seriously being put up there against Ocarina at time. It's crazy, you know, seeing how Final Fantasy VII was once such a big cultural juggernaut, how it's like slowly faded from the public consciousness, while Ocarina is still considered the greatest game ever made.
I mean, if we're talking about copies sold, which seems to be your argument, since you're saying, oh, more and more people are going to be exposed to Nintendo, if we look at the top 10 best-selling games of all time, only 2 of them are Nintendo exclusives, so it's not exactly dominating the market, is it?
And of course this extends to the PC gaming community as well. Like, they talk tough. They talk as if they have, like, all these hidden gems, all these indie developers, the better storefront.
Sounds like a guy I know called Harman Smith, except instead of for PC, they say it for Nintendo Switch.
You know, they try to make Gabe Newell out to be some, like, Giga Chad alpha in the gaming industry, but, like...
I mean, he doesn't make me pay a subscription service just to play my games online, and he gives me way more games to play. So, yeah, he's God's given gift on this planet compared to Nintendo. Also, I just skipped a little bit ahead because he was basically ranting about, oh, what has Gabe Newell actually done, aside from create an objectively better platform than Nintendo Switch Online, but, you know.
Without that association with PC gaming, without being, like, the only reason PC gaming is relevant.
Aside from all the other reasons, but, you know.
Valve wouldn't be a studio that, like, anybody talks about, that anybody cares about. Like, Valve is a complete joke.
Unlike Nintendo, which charges a hilariously large amount of money for 720p 30fps games, and that's on a good day. There have been plenty of games that weren't even optimized properly for the Switch. So it's basically a coin toss as to whether you're actually gonna get what you paid for on Switch. And yeah, I understand that's the same with pretty much every platform, but at the very least, those other platforms play games consistently better than the Switch does.
You know, PC gaming is a complete joke. You know, all these companies that just exist, like, who cares about any of them?
Probably the 132 million monthly active users for Steam. How many active users does Switch have again?
Where are the games, is what I'm asking. Why would I want to, like, play TF2 and just, like, throw in a bunch of hats, you know?
Because Team Fortress 2 is totally the only game that PC has, not the nearly 8,000 games that were added to Steam literally last month or anything.
Pay real money for hats. Like, why would I want to pay a subscription fee for World of Warcraft?
I mean, you're perfectly happy paying a subscription fee to play your games online, so you would know a lot about subscription fees, wouldn't you?
You know, like, why would I want to do that? Why would I not spend my money on a brand new game on Nintendo Switch?
Probably because you can buy 5 games on PC which all run at a significantly greater quality than the Switch could ever hope to provide.
Like, the reality is that, like, liking PC gaming is for midwits.
Insulting the audience. You're doing a pretty bad job at selling me on the Nintendo Switch, but now you're doing a pretty bad job selling the idea that you're worth listening to.
Right. It's people who think they're, like, being smart because, like, oh, I can just steal games.
Emulation isn't piracy, and even if you discount emulation, we have way more games on the PC than the Switch could ever hope to have.
You know, on my gaming PC, right? It's not for people who, like, actually think all that much about gaming. People who actually wonder, like, what what great games are out there? Like, what console is the best? What one offers the most value for my money, and which one has the most games?
I mean, if we're talking about value for money, then I would recommend the Xbox Series S. It's cheaper than the Switch, infinitely more powerful, and with Game Pass, you have a wide variety of games available to you for the price of one Nintendo Switch game. So, yeah, I would recommend that for value for money. Sure, you have to pay a subscription fee, but I mean, who gives a shit? You have to do that for literally everything other than PC, yet Harman Smith doesn't seem to care.
Because, like, if you ask those questions, you end up inevitably at the same place. That Nintendo is superior.
It literally isn't superior in any way. In terms of performance, well, it couldn't even match last gen, so how is it going to have a hope in hell of matching current gen? In terms of game libraries, well, PC no diffs the entire gaming industry. In terms of players, I mean, PC has more concurrent players than every single console combined. In terms of price, well, again, the Series S is a better value for your money if you're a casual gamer. And in terms of portability, well, PC has narrowed the field with the Steam Deck, which allows you to play Steam games on the go. Sure, it's more expensive than the Switch, but it's much better quality across the board and has access to more games, including emulation. And that's not even going over the many, many different factors that go into the Steam Deck, since it's not a gaming console, it's a portable PC. Like, Switch really has nothing going for it.
And right now, it's we're kind of in this interesting period where we're beginning to see the cracks starting to show with PC gaming. Of course, like GTA 6 is not coming day one.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to arrive on the Switch at all. So, what's your point?
And the major platforms that are subsidizing the PC gaming audience, PlayStation and Xbox, they're on the way out. Without those platforms carrying PC, without them carrying PC sales, without them, like, developing all of the games that will eventually come to PC, like, PC doesn't have anything.
You could say the exact same thing against the Switch, too. If Nintendo stops supporting first-party games on that device, it's literally dead in the water, since most third-party games don't even get released on the Switch. And even if they do, they get released at a lower quality, for a much greater price, I want to point out. So, I don't see what you're trying to say here. PC has more games than the Nintendo Switch ever will. It is not supported by Xbox or PS5 in the slightest.
Without PlayStation and Xbox, like, you wouldn't have Halo, you wouldn't have Gears of War, you wouldn't have the Uncharted games, Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, right? Like, all of these games that Steam fans like to hype up, but then not actually play.
Yeah, and can you play those games on the Nintendo Switch at 1080p, 60 FPS? No, I didn't think so.
Will just stop getting produced, and that will be at the end of PC gaming.
If we all wake up tomorrow and gaming dies, like gaming literally dies across the board, PC is going to be the last one standing, because gaming is a primary function of literally every single gaming console. The clue is in the name. But on PC, it's a secondary feature, because of all the utility that PC has. So even if you remove gaming from the equation altogether, PC is still coming out on top.
I think PC gaming, more than any other demographic, has this cultish mindset around it that, like,
I'm gonna insult PC gamers, and then when I see the inevitable backlash in the comment section, well, that just proves my point. They have a cultish mindset behind them. It's not like I instigated the argument or anything.
We have to defend our platform no matter what. We have to present it as superior.
I mean, your entire channel is based around presenting that Nintendo Switch is superior, and even in previous videos you said that gamers need to, go over to Nintendo Switch, and that game developers need to stop making games on literally every platform other than Nintendo Switch. You're not helping your argument here.
We can't allow anybody to question it. Like, we have to, like, just obsessively come after anyone who questions the PC gaming master race. You can, like, go down in the comments right now and see this, but
again, that's literally what you do, but with Nintendo, so how are you any different? Also, like I just said, I'm gonna say a load of random bullshit against PC gamers, and then, what do you know, go down to the comment section, you'll see them debunk my points. Yeah, they're totally gatekeeping.
Like, anybody who questions, like, the superiority of PC gaming is talked down to and disregarded and made fun of. And I think that's a major reason why you don't see a lot of YouTubers do it.
Then allow me to break the mold. The beauty about the gaming industry is how accessible it is. You can play basically any video game you want in a variety of genres on a variety of different platforms. You can play what you want and no one should be able to stop you. You should be able to play whatever you want without feeling judged. However, if you go online making public, stupid, inaccurate, factual statements about a certain platform, don't be surprised when you receive backlash. That's the beauty of the internet. People are allowed to disagree with you, and they very much are doing so.
Because it's just not worth your time or effort, right? You're always better off talking about the games you actually enjoy. But PC gamers will never do that. All they care about is convincing you that their platform is better than yours.
I know I'm repeating myself here, but that's literally what you do all the time with Nintendo products. You sit here whining and bitching about PC games or console games performing well, how it's somehow an Illuminati agenda to downplay Nintendo. You keep making baseless claims showing no evidence whatsoever about how Nintendo Switch is objectively better than PC, but then you contradict yourself halfway through the video. So, I honestly don't know what I was expecting. This is not the first time that I've seen a Harman Smith video, but it's the first time that I've ever responded to one. So, let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I'm obviously going to be limiting my comments to only PC gamers, since apparently we're all part of a cult master race. So feel free to subscribe if you like more videos like this, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a great day, guys.